Ed got the chance to see Thor: Love and Thunder. He saw it about a week early. Saw it on Wednesday. So Ed, you are allowed to talk about their first reactions. So let's go into it, man. Give it.
All right. It is a first reactions. I cannot spend too much time on this, but I'll give you the little intro to what I was able to see in my basically my first impressions of the film. So, I mean, the best thing I can say, I guess, about the film is that it's a Taika Waititi film. And if that's what you're looking for, and that's what you loved about Ragnarok, it doubles down on everything Ragnarok, particularly the sort of silliness, the comedy, super doubles down on that. So if that's the part of Ragnarok you really enjoyed, you are going to have a pretty good time. I had a pretty good time considering, if you look at this as a purely entertainment film, then it brings it, man. I mean, it's literally a joke a minute, particularly in the first like 30 or minutes to an hour. It's just jokes almost to a fault, to be honest. Again, for me, we've discussed this before. Like, we both have a problem sort of with the indulgence that some directors can take when they amplify their sting on a movie. I think, obviously Taika is one of those directors, and this movie definitely leans in more into that. And so again, it's apples and oranges at that point. It's like, if you like that stuff, it's great. If you don't, you might have some moments of wince and maybe cringe a little bit because it's just not for you. But for me, there are enough moments that I particularly laughed at that I thought were enjoyable, and it brought the entertainment. That being said, I don't believe the film is as good as Ragnarok, particularly on a narrative level. Again, they really take the comedy as the front point and center thing in this film versus a sort of stronger script, which maybe is like the style that they're going for now. It's like the Thor films in the MCU as a stylistic choice. So maybe that's how we're supposed to just see these films now. And then that's fine. I think it has its place. But as people who love cinema in general, I think you and I would prefer a good story, obviously, like where they actually maybe spent some time to iron out the wrinkles. There are definitely some wrinkles in this film. And overall, I think the performances are top notch. They're always great. Natalie Portman does a phenomenal job. I think she's wonderful. And my favorite part, just to get a little bit into it, was easily Zeus. And I told you this in my earlier review. Zeus, Russell Crowe as Zeus is great. It's easily the best part of the film. It was having me dying. Just seeing what they do and what Russell does with that character is, it's so good. So that was a gift that kept on giving in the film. Here's one thing I will say that's a little controversial. It's my last thing before I get too on about this film. If there was a part that I felt could have been stronger and should have been stronger, it was Christian Bale's gore. Not from a performance standpoint, because Christian Bale performing in any movie is gold. It's more so on from a narrative and written standpoint. I felt like they could have definitely done more with that character. Gore really could have used a lot more. He isn't the focus of the movie by any means. It's very much a Thor movie, even more so than Jane. If people think that Jane was gonna come in and be the star of the show and try to steal it from Chris Hemsworth, that's not the case here, which is, I think, a good thing. Like, this should be Chris's movie, and it is, which is good. But again, when you in a world where you kind of want the villains to sort of really come up to par with your hero, this is not one of those movies, unfortunately. His performance is good and amazing, but they sidelined it a little bit in favor of other things, which that was a pretty big bummer in my opinion. But it's fine. Here's the other thing I will say about this film. And other outlets have said this now too, which makes me feel a lot better. But you know how our favorite Star Trek, not our favorite, but Star Trek Beyond felt like a sort of, instead of a straight up sequel or movie, it felt like a sort of episode of Star Trek, a really, really good episode of Star Trek. This is similar, where it really does feel kind of like the Thor. If there was a Thor show, this was an episode of that. However, it wasn't like it was a good episode of the Thor show, but it wasn't a great movie in that sense. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It has that feel to it where it's like, it's more like a side mission or a mission, but it doesn't hit like an MCU movie does in that respect.
Interesting. So, very, very interesting. So I have two questions. One, scale of 1 to 5. What are you giving it since this is your review?
Probably like a solid 3.
Okay,
like a 3.
So just
I think it's definitely enjoyable as long as you go into it knowing it's like more Ragnarok. Then I think you can enjoy it.
Okay,
but it definitely has some flaws in the sense that like we've seen better stories out of the MCU. Out
of the theater reaction, where does this rank among the MCU Phase 4?
Phase 4 specifically?
Yeah. Obviously with No Way Home being the top of the top, Eternals being up there for you as well.
Yeah.
Where does this go?
Well, it's definitely, I would say I actually liked it better than Multiverse of Madness. So that's actually a good thing. Because I think it's I think that there's like that element of that hype isn't there. That overhypeness isn't there, kind of ruining that film for you. So I agree. So that's not too surprising to me. On a hype level, yes. It like obviously I think it was closer to what it initially put front as a movie. So I'm like, okay, I can't be too disappointed. Unlike Multiverse of Madness, which we thought was going to be this huge thing and it ended up not being that. Yeah. This is much closer to something that they promised. So that's why I think it's better. And I was able to enjoy it more. It didn't disappoint necessarily because it's exactly what I think most of us think it's going to be, which is good. But in ranking, I would put it probably like
above Shang-Chi or below?
No. Well, I think Shang-Chi is like top for me overall. Like as a general film, I think Shang-Chi was the most interesting out of Phase 4. So I put that at top.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I put No Way Home, Eternals, Black Widow's at the bottom. And then probably Thor 4. Thor Love and Thunder, and then Multiverse of Madness.
Okay,
that's probably. Did I miss one? I don't think
right
I did.
In the middle. No, you didn't miss one. You missed TV shows, but we're not doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say considering we liked Eternals, I can't say it's in the top tier of Phase 4. But for those who obviously hated Eternals, then it's probably closer to the upper tier for you, probably 3rd place for most people. But my top 3 are still those movies, and so it at least beats Multiverse of Madness and Black Widow. So it's enjoyable. When you watch it, I figure you should be able to enjoy it for what it is. I think we'll have a similar reaction, but we'll see. Okay. You let me know.
Obviously we'll talk about it next week. We'll go full spoilers, full actual review into it. But we shall. Yeah, I mean, I loved Thor Ragnarok. It's like one of my favorite MCU films. So if it's more of that, I think great. But if it's as Ed said, if it's too self-indulgent, you got to be careful. It's a fine line to tread. I think you and I, we really put story forward. So I don't think you will love the story, and which is where I really feel like, that's where you'll have the most problems. Because we see with Ragnarok, at least that film had so many tentpole moments. You know, like you had Hulk and you knew they were going to fight. Jeff Goldblum was amazing. You had Loki in there. You had all Hela was awesome. You had all these like little tent poles that you knew you were going to look forward to, and like they were going to be big moments, and they ended up paying off. It doesn't have that epicness that Ragnarok has. Again, it kind of goes down a little bit because it feels more like a Saturday episode of Thor, which I don't know. I don't know how it plays for some people. I wish it kind of went further. But so no problem there. But overall, the reception for the film, I think, will be definitely positive. It will be definitely positive. I don't know if it will make $1 billion, but it'll be good. It'll be another solid MCU entry, I think, for everybody.